We're talking old faces and new places today.
What's going on, everybody? This is B. Scott.
G.O.D. You talking to a god right now.
And the third wheel.
And this is the first four downs. Let's get it.
We talking old faces and new places today.
So we're talking Antonio Brown. And the huge story at the moment is his feet. Frostbite. And honestly, it's dropped him down the draft boards into the middle of the third round, maybe even the late third round. And falling out of the consensus top 10, which seems crazy to me. I mean, you're looking at a receiver that, yes, he joined a new team for the first time in his career, but this guy's averaged 1,500 yards, over 100 catches, and 11 touchdowns over the last 6 seasons. It's just insane, the numbers he's put up, albeit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now you join Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders. So with the injury concerns, do you really think it's worth dropping him outside the top 10 at the wide receiver position?
You know, I really don't. I think this is a weird place for fantasy owners to actually get a steal in the third round where he's currently being drafted. I know the frostbite injury is very concerning, but cold feet is not in this man's repertoire. In the past 6 seasons, Antonio Brown has had 100 receptions in each straight season. Since 2014, he's been the top 3 wide receiver in all seasons and a top 10 overall fantasy player over quarterbacks in 4 out of the last 5.
So obviously, Antonio Brown is more than elite. You're looking at a guy, Hall of Famer, and top 3 receiver, arguably, of all time. I mean, look at the accolades. Since 2016, on deep targets, he ranked first with 18 touchdowns. Outside the numbers, ranked first, 20 touchdowns. Press targets, 15 touchdowns, second in the league. Tight window touchdowns, 10, second in the league. I mean, the list goes on and on with this guy with the numbers. The question of him dropping down is only due to Derek Carr, and obviously Derek Carr's had his struggles over the last few years. He's had some injury concerns, and it's affected his gameplay, but he's also had terrible teams. I mean, you look at last year with Jordy Nelson, 88 targets, man, in 15 games, and the guy, obviously, it tells how much juice he had in the tank now that he's retired. So you got to look back at Derek Carr in 2015, 2016, where he held 2 receivers with 130 targets. And both of them close to 1,000 yards, both of them 6+ touchdowns. So, and that was 2 straight seasons. And AB is better than both those receivers. And then Tyrell Williams is no scrub. So you're looking at the Raiders getting back to throwing the football. I see Antonio Brown being nothing short of 10 touchdowns. I mean, minimum. The guy is a walking 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, and you have to remember also that they have something very in common with each other that's making this whole thing work. John Gruden. John Gruden is a offensive mastermind and considered a quarterback guru. And in his offense, elite talent comes with a very safe floor. In 2001, they acquired a wide receiver who had 125 targets, 83 receptions, 1,139 yards for 9 touchdowns. That player is the guy that happens to be the most comparable to AB. That player is the GOAT, the one and only Jerry Rice. I have the utmost confidence in Gruden and what they're doing over there. I think they're going to get this thing right, man. I'm giving AB 150 targets, 97 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Barn missing time with those cold feet.
Well, yeah, obviously the feet is an issue, but I don't see him missing time. He's out running routes. It's preseason week 2. He's on the field running routes right now. That's a good sign. So he should be ready week 1. Well, I mean, we got to worry about building a rapport with Derek Carr. That's very important, but AB is good enough, man. He's a walking 10 touchdowns easy. I give him 90 receptions, right around 1,100 yards, and 10 touchdowns. It's going to put him at the wide receiver 9. He's going to stay in the 10. And with the upside of this guy, because he's fallen in drafts, you're getting a steal in the third round. And, you know, there's no way you might end up with Antonio Brown in your flex. Think about that. Unbelievable.
Jackpot. Go get Antonio Brown.
All right, cool. So now we're talking to Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham Jr. joins Cleveland Browns, traded from the Giants. They're in a complete rebuild. So he's joining Baker Mayfield, and he's pretty much a consensus top 3 receiver at this moment. And some people got him ranked even higher. I'd put him at my 3 or 4, but injuries are the biggest problem that he has. He has never played a full season, but he's had one season where he's played 15 games. In that season, 13 touchdowns, 1,450 yards receiving. That was good enough to be a top 3, top 5 wide receiver. Now he joins Baker Mayfield, and the sky is the limit for the guy. He's a dynamic playmaker. Realistically, where do you think you're going to be drafting him come draft day? Are you looking to take him at the number 3 spot as your wide receiver? Are you willing to go as high as number 1 for wide receivers? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I got Odell Beckham Jr. Ranked number 1 wide receiver this year. I like what Cleveland's doing. Last year, they showed a lot of promise last year. Very young team. They found out they got an excellent runner in Nick Chubb, who I got leading the league in rushing this season. They threw the football 36 times a game last year. You know what I mean? And that was like a lot of drop balls and inconsistent targets downfield. And what I mean by inconsistent, they had 167 targets to Callaway and Higgins last year that were terrible, to be honest with you. That amassed for 29% of the target share. In Odell Beckham Jr.'s career, he averages 28% of the target share in an offense. It's even more targets that's free if you add David Njoku's 88 targets that were terrible too, who he is hurt right now as well. Also, they still supported 149 targets to Jarvis Landry. So I think there's a lot of work to go around. And you go and get a guy like Antonio Brown, or you go get a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, my God. Baker's already known to be a very efficient quarterback coming out of college. I think he was the most deemed pro ready. And you get a elite guy like this, I mean, the sky's the limit for this football team. Right now, I got Odell Beckham, my number 1 receiver. I have no problem taking him anywhere from 6 to 10 to 12, to be honest, depending on the size of your league. This guy's a killer for your league. He's going to lead you with consistent numbers every single week with Baker Mayfield. Yeah, so I got him anywhere between the 5 and the 12, depending on the size of your league. I mean, you know, at 5'6", if you're taking the first wide receiver, you might be taking Hopkins. You never know. Or Julio or Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? It's all a toss-up. I think they all finished within very close points to each other. But I'm an Odell fan, so I got Odell number 1. And this year I got him with his 14 yards per reception average. I got him on 93 receptions for 1,300 yards and 10-plus touchdowns.
Yeah, see, my thing with Odell Beckham is injuries, obviously. He's gotten hurt a lot in his career, so that's a huge risk considering the other players, the other wide receivers at that top end position.
Understandable.
So that's the only reason I have Odell being at the number 4 is just the risk concern compared to the durability of Adams or Hopkins, even Julio, who's missed some time with injury and played through injuries. But, you know, that guy's an Iron Man, just like those other guys. They just stay on the field. So the only reason I got Odell at 4 is based on that. Out of my top 5 receivers, I'm looking at a 10 to 15 point spread between all of them anyway. So it's like a toss-up. But Odell is going to finish inside the top 5. If he stays healthy, I'm giving him 14 to 15 games, I think. He might miss 1 or 2, depending. Who knows? Cleveland might run away with the division. So I got him projected at 95 receptions on probably about 130 to 140 targets because he warrants 10 targets a game on average. So 130 to 140 targets. You're looking at 1,300 yards receiving, and I'm giving him probably 12 touchdowns. It's just a given that he almost averages a touchdown a game when he plays. So
yeah, we're pretty close there. So who do you have over Odell? I'm just wondering.
Realistically, the only people I have over Odell, like I said, is Hopkins and Adams, and that's based on durability. I mean, ultimately, that's the only thing.
I can see that. I think it's just really, like we said, it's splitting hairs who's going to be number 1. Realistically, you can never guess it. I mean, come on. Tyreek Hill was the number 1 receiver last year, and nobody seen that coming. So, at the end of the day, draft Odell Beckham Jr. with confidence.
Absolutely, and he could be the number 1 guy, plain and simple.
For the first 4 downs, this has been B. Scott, the third wheel, and as always, G.O.D. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give us a thumb and hit the subscribe button.